Hello everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on August the 3rd, 2015. And, this week was basically, I can't really say they were truthfully building towards everything. That was more of kind of enhancing some of the storylines and everything in that sense, or at least some of the characters. You started out the night with, of course, Seth Rollins. Them doing their typical, either Seth Rollins or the Authority starts this. Which, oddly enough, you didn't see Triple H or Stephanie throughout the entire show this week. So it was basically all based around Seth Rollins when it comes towards the Authority, and. You had him come out cutting the promo of what he did with Cena and everything, saying, oh, he was too compassionate and that's why he lost and everything like that, and then challenges him for the title versus title match at SummerSlam, which gives you the indication that even though Cena broke his nose, he'll be back by SummerSlam. And knowing Cena's track record, even if it's an injury that he's supposed to be out for longer, then whatever they say, he usually comes back sooner. So I wouldn't be shocked either in that sense of everything. And then basically kind of mocks Cena's U.S. Open challenge by making a WWE title open challenge. And of course, he had a bunch of caveats. They had to be under 6 feet tall and under 200 pounds, making it feel like, oh, it's just going to be some no-name or somebody who won't put a good match out there. Like they even teased El Torito initially, and then eventually it turns out to be Neville. And then they basically had, the matches that they had before, but obviously this time with that whole caveat that all the titles on the line. And I like the teases that they did throughout the entire match to make it look like Neville was actually going to win, even though you knew he wasn't going to win in this case. They made Neville look good in this sense in the sense even in losing he looked good in this case. The only real crazy aspect is that he's also in this feud with Stardust, but they didn't have any real interaction. Obviously they had Stardust cut a promo later on in the show, and then they also did a bit with with the star from Arrow coming in next week, and obviously they've been kind of having that whole Twitter feud and everything on that aspect going in there. It looks like something like that's going to actually go down. Maybe they're going to have something at SummerSlam between them. I don't know where they're going to actually go with it, if it's going to be a match or what it's just going to be a segment of some kind or anything like that. But obviously they're going to be doing something with that next week as well with Stardust, and maybe they'll throw Neville in there because they have the feud with Neville and Stardust as well going along with that. So we'll see where they go with everything there. On the Diva side, of course, they're starting this trend where they're not only just giving them more time for matches, but you're getting 2 matches in one night. The tag match with Becky Lynch and Charlotte versus the Bellas, I thought was a really good match. They did a good job of working the whole tag team aspect in there, and like working a traditional tag team match that you would typically see. And I thought it was actually fairly good and fairly entertaining. You had a promo cut beforehand by Paige, Becky, and Charlotte, basically calling themselves the Submission Sorority. Okay, now they've got a team name for themselves as well, and actually it suits them very well because all 3 of them have submissions and everything in that aspect. So it actually suits them well. So that match, and obviously they're also with the continuing of putting over the new NXT divas as well. Continued on with Charlotte getting the tap out victory over Nikki Bella in there. Maybe making it look like it was like, okay, who's gonna get the first title match with everything? Now you have somebody who has a win over the champion. So we'll see where they go with that aspect. But this week was pretty much them kind of building that team with Paige and Charlotte and Becky Lynch, because then they had the match with Naomi. They had the promo afterwards, having Naomi challenge Paige, and then of course the match with them two was actually again relatively good. They gave it time, they let it build, they let it go, they let it work, and so they definitely were going with that aspect of getting over that particular team this week. So we'll see where they continue on with the building of this whole Divas Revolution thing. You don't really have much in the terms of story. They're kind of just building the teams up and working everything into probably whatever the full story is. Obviously, they're all working for dominance over the division, so we'll see where everything goes into that aspect down here in the near future. The Miz TV segment with the Miz TV segment with Kevin Owens and Cesaro, I thought was really good, and I'll go off and say now, and I'll talk a little bit more about this towards the end as well, because I do want to kind of get into the whole Roddy Piper area about him passing and everything like that. The bit Miz did at the beginning, talking about how Piper's Pit being the original, and basically him giving his tribute, and also everybody kind of doing their own small thing, whether they were in a Hot Rod shirt or something else in there throughout the night. The tributes that they did, especially Miz's tribute to Roddy Piper, was really, really good. The tribute, and I'll talk, like I said, I'll talk about the whole tribute thing a little bit later on, but I liked that aspect that he added towards the Miz TV, basically saying it's like, oh, you know, he called it the second most must-see talk show in WWE history because of Piper's Pit being the original and the best one. Everything on that aspect, I liked what he did there. I thought that was really classy, really well done. The promo between Cesaro and Kevin Owens, I actually kind of liked it. It was pretty good. Cesaro is getting a little bit better on the microphone, and you know, he can hold his own a little bit now. Not so. It wasn't so much that he couldn't hold his own all that much a while ago, but he's holding his own pretty well now on the microphone. You can definitely see the crowd getting behind him. You had tons of they had tons of signs for him this week, and you could definitely hear the crowd definitely getting behind the guy. So we'll see how everything's fully working. I like the aspect of the rivalry that they're having between Kevin Owens and Cesaro at this point. Obviously, they need something for Kevin Owens. I'm liking that he's working with Cesaro, because you'll get a really good match when they do have the one-on-one match, whether it be at SummerSlam or beforehand. So I'm liking where they went with everything this week between them. Also, and I'll go ahead and get, I'm not going to say get it out of the way, but I want to talk about the tribute video and everything that they did. You know, it was, you know, just as good as what they did when Dusty had passed away. The tribute video was very well done, very well put together, getting the aspects behind his career in there and everything he had done. I thoroughly thought they did a good job here, and they, you know, they always do when it comes to their tribute videos, and you know, showing their respects before, right before the show and everything on that aspect. I remember watching a lot of Piper stuff back in the day, and you know, in some cases, in full memory of watching it live, like I was able to watch WrestleMania 8 and everything on that aspect. And that was one of the things that I had remembered. Obviously, I got to see some of the stuff in WCW and some of the stuff later on in there, but also going back and watching some of the old stuff he did with WrestleMania 1 and WrestleMania 2 and WrestleMania 3 and those aspects. He was a very entertaining guy. The only way that you truly knew him was based, or most fans would truly ever know him, was based on what they saw on TV. He was a very entertaining heel. He played well as a face at times as well, but he shined the best as a heel, and he made it. He was one of those guys that made being the heel seem cool, in that sense. So he was all since obviously I didn't get to personally know the guy in any way, so everything I have is based on what I saw on TV. He was very entertaining. He seemed like he had a great passion for what he was doing. He loved being out there with the fans and working over the crowd. And whether he was being face or being heel, he seemed to just thoroughly enjoy what he was doing. So, obviously, a man who will be missed, a personality that will be missed, and hopeful. And again, WWE did it again with getting a good tribute video and showing their respects before the show as well. So this brings me back into the show itself and talking about the main event of the night, which not the main event. Obviously, I want to get into a little bit about Rusev as well. Not much with Rusev, kind of showing more dominance again, getting him to be kind of a dominant kind of character. Him just having his match with Mark Henry, they kind of did that in that aspect because he dominated that type of match, and that's what they wanted to do. Obviously, like Lana and Dolph had gotten a little bit over him beforehand, so they needed to get him something that would show his dominance before Dolph Ziggler came back, and this was one good way of doing it. So not much enhancement in the storyline other than the fact that they were trying to get a dominant presence around him again. So this does bring me into the main event of the night, which was the six-man tag: Randy Orton, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper, and Sheamus. The promos leading into it were fairly well done. I liked Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper's promo with Sheamus, and the promo with Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose and Randy Orton came off pretty well as well. But the match itself was actually fairly entertaining. Again, it didn't really come into an aspect of a match that was particular to any of their storylines. The storylines were worked mostly around the promos and how they're setting up for potential SummerSlam matches with them. So in a sense, like the tag team match wasn't really meant to enhance the story. It was more the promos that night. The match that they put on, though, was a fairly entertaining one, especially the ending segments. The ending segment with how they worked everything, and they're basically making it look like that, okay, one team was going to get over, and then then this team was going to go over, and then everything kind of worked into the faces, eventually pulling it out in the end, and kind of like a go home happy type of moment. But in the end, it was a fairly entertaining six-man tag. I did actually thoroughly enjoy the spots that they put in there towards the end and everything on that aspect. And it wasn't even like that. It didn't feel like they weren't selling for any of the spots at the end, because it was like, okay, one person got taken out, and then they kind of stayed out for a little while, and as the other spots were kind of working together. So it wasn't like one person takes a spot, gets right back up and takes another one or something in that sense. So it came off relatively well in the end. So overall, actually, again, it's been weird. The last couple weeks of Raw, and maybe it's because they've been giving a little bit more time in the matches. I mean, you even had a little bit more enhancement with the tag team division, basically them trying to set up this multiple tag team. I'm thinking they're going to do something like a tag team turmoil at SummerSlam, because it looks like they're throwing the Ascension in there as well. So we'll see where they go with the tag team division. They did more commentary with the primetime players. I honestly enjoy the primetime players on commentary and how they interact with the commentary team in that sense. So we'll see how they continue building up the tag team division as well in there. So overall, like I said, like last week's Raw and this week's Raw, and it seems like, in the sense, maybe it's because they are giving a little bit more time to some of these matches in general, they seem to going by a little bit quicker. They don't seem like they take so long to get through as they used to. It was more, I looked at it was like they were getting into like the Roman Reigns promo, or the Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose and Randy Orton promo, and all of a sudden I take a look at the clock, it's like it's 7:40. It's like, really? The show, and that's for Phoenix time, because the show would air at about 5 o'clock out here. And it's like, really? It doesn't feel like 2 hours 40 minutes have gone by. And so that's actually an indication of a show that's not too bad. You're not realizing the time is going by in that case. So actually, I would throw out there that it was, again, a fairly entertaining Raw. The matches that they're putting on are a lot better now. It's not like they're trying to blow you away with like crazy 5-star matches or like this every week, but they're putting on relatively good matches, and they take their time and let each individual match kind of build and kind of build and kind of build. They have a climax, and then they have a decent end in there, and the crowd kind of gets behind it. So overall, fairly entertaining Raw, and I can't believe I almost forgot about talking about Paul Heyman's promo with Brock Lesnar. Again, this is reasons why Brock Lesnar never needs a microphone. He has Paul Heyman. He doesn't need to speak. All he needs to do is do what he did this week. Let Paul Heyman eventually introduce him, walk down to the ring, throw some stairs in the ring, and just stand there and look like a badass. That's all he has to do, and Paul Heyman will continue to talk. Man, what can you say? This was, again, another very, very well done promo, and that's all they really have to work with at this point, because they're not going to always have Brock and Undertaker together in the same arena leading into SummerSlam. Obviously, they'll probably have them the week right before SummerSlam and everything like that, but and that's where you hopefully get some kind of physical interaction or what they're going to do storyline wise. But the story's basically built around the whole WrestleMania match, and I liked how Paul Heyman threw the touch in there. It's like, oh, Undertaker begged Vince for a rematch at WrestleMania this year, but Vince, and then saying it's like Vince said no because he knew what would happen, and then Undertaker forced their hand. I liked how he built it and built it and built it throughout that entire his entire promo there. Like, he solely is building the match, and you don't necessarily need promos in the terms of building story from Undertaker and from Brock Lesnar, because you got Paul Heyman kind of telling the entire story for you in that sense. So again, really, really excellently done promo from Paul Heyman to, again, what I felt was a fairly entertaining Raw this week. And, that's all I have to say this week for Monday Night Raw. And that's my review this week for Monday Night Raw. And I thank you guys for watching.